Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's your girl, Shy Rosalind, and welcome to another episode of It Happened One Night. It Happened One Night is an extension of the YouTube Street Guide, in which I travel these YouTube streets as a humble but curious member of the YouTube family. And I come across different types of situations along these YouTube streets, and I present them to you as a cautionary tale of what could possibly go wrong or go right along these streets, as they call them. So, tonight we're going to discuss the church drama flowchart. There has been a lot of church drama going on amongst these YouTubers, and tonight we're going to talk about a few of them. And as always, a little bit of housekeeping. There, copyright disclaimer. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, allowance is made for fair use for the purpose such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statutes that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. And as always, this presentation is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Respectful comments are always welcome. So, hallelujah! Praise be! And there's a whole lot of talk about these two situations, church drama and church hurt. There is a difference. And before we delve into the flowchart, I wanted to talk a little bit about both. So, church drama is basically some kind of a scandal which could become public, might not limited to, but may include financial malfeasance, mistreatment of members, deliberate misinterpretation of the scripture, or bullying of church members or staff. An example would probably be the infamous Keon, I forgot his last name, Henderson, there we go. His telling the woman in the choir to hush. And then I think it was a week ago, 2 weeks ago, she was in the audience. That tells you something. She was no longer on the choir, but he apologized to her and asked for a hug. And once again, she started wailing, and I've never seen a minister move so fast before in my life. But also another example of church drama, the lovely Kim Burrell. Let your mask work for you. I don't need to say anymore. Church hurt, however, is a little more intense, serious, however you want to take it. Church hurt is a term used to describe emotional, mental, spiritual, or physical pain someone may experience in a church setting. It can be caused by the actions or inactions of a church leader, congregation member, or other church representative. So, for example, if someone has been harassed by another member of the congregation and the church leadership does nothing about it or says nothing about it, that would be church hurt. An extreme example, of course, we've seen in the news a couple of pastors have had to give up their position because they abused someone in the congregation. And in one case, the person at the time of the abuse was underage. And that person, of course, is now suffering with the effects of that, even though they're grown. So, those are the two, church drama and church hurt. And church drama could lead to church hurt. Just to let you know. So, this particular flowchart is in regards to a particular person. It took me a while to figure out who was who and what was what. I might be missing some pieces to the puzzle, but this time we're going to explore the whole Larry Reid, I don't want to say phenomenon, but the whole Larry Reid scandal, I guess it would be. Um, but let's just cover the basics tonight. We can talk about the more details at a later time. What I am going to do, I am presenting this video as is tonight, and will probably do a reaction to my own video as I've done before. So you take your time, watch it, questions, comments, throw them in, and then when I do the reaction, um, I can see your questions and talk about it. Or if you have something to add, feel free. I can bring that up when I do the reaction as well. So here's the general scheme of it all. Larry Reid is sort of the center of it. And then he has allies and non allies. I've only mentioned a few of them because I only had so much room on the, on the page. Um, but I'm sure there's some people that I haven't really fleshed out, and we can do that on the reaction. So Larry Reid is a self-proclaimed prophet, and I'll talk about more about him in a minute. We have Archbishop Bernard Jordan, who is his mentor. We have William McRae, which is he's I like to call him an occasional ally. Sometimes they're on good terms, sometimes they're not. Then we have King Jives, which I will talk about him a little bit more. Conscious TV, I don't know that much about him. I only know a little bit. So if someone wants to fill me in on this person, feel free. And V. Terrell Hill, the person who famously aired his whistleblower video in February. I'm going to talk about him as well. So the center of it all, Larry Reid. Larry D. Reid is an online self-proclaimed prophet. He is the founder of the NBN network. He considers himself a church critic, believing that brick and mortar churches will fall by the wayside, which I really have a problem with because I don't see that happening. He is a strictly online ministry, and please put that in quotes. His online show is called Larry Reid Live, which includes um, a little celebrity gossip, some church gossip. He says that he does not discuss scandals unless it's already public. So if there's a court case, or if the person involved in the scandal has spoken out on their own, then he discusses it. Otherwise, he doesn't. Um, yeah. And I have talked about him before regarding my videos about tithing. Please check those out if you like. One has been moved to Patreon. One is still up on YouTube. If you'd like to join my Patreon, shameless plug, please do. And this video will eventually be added to my Patreon as well. So just this is a little shameless plug. His fans slash people who tithe are called LRLers. Um, it's difficult to determine how many members he has. His YouTube, he doesn't he doesn't release likes on his videos, so it's hard to tell how many people have been hitting the like button. His Patreon does not disclose how many people he has in his Patreon. Um, I I can kind of give an estimate from my previous video that I did about tithing and what he collected. You can take a guess from that, but that may have fluctuated a little bit. Um, Another thing about Larry Reid himself, he this particular year he is on a push to go international. He apparently loves Dubai. He has trips planned for his Celestial Circle members for Ghana, Barcelona, and back to Dubai. In order to be part of his Celestial Circle, you have to donate a minimum of $2,024, and that's no guarantee that you will be picked to be in the circle. His celestial circles, usually people who donate $10,000 or more, from what I have been able to find out. Um, and I can talk about that at length because I do have some additional financial information, just from my own research. No, no, no statement from the accountant, just my own research. Um, yeah. So yeah, and the other thing I have a problem with Larry Reid is him insisting um that storefront churches and brick and mortar churches are going by the wayside. I don't believe that. I see it in my own community. The brick and mortar churches are doing fine. Some provide online services and in person, um, and the attendance is good, both ways. The churches in my neighborhood, in my community, are flourishing. They're giving back to the community, so you can actually see what the churches are doing. Unlike, um, unlike this guy, you don't know what he's doing in the community. He claims that he donates stuff and that he helps people in the community. Have yet to see hide no hair of it happening. I don't hear anybody talking about NBN giving out turkeys or, you know, grocery store gift cards at Thanksgiving. I don't hear that. So I don't know who he's donating to. And I don't see any community person saying, "Oh, thank you to the NBN network for helping us with our clothing drive," or, helping us with our homeless drive. I don't see any of them doing that. So if they are, I don't know about it. So he is the main person. Also, he's had issues with the infamous Bishop Whitehead, which is where the picture on the top right of your screen came from. He had issues with him. He sued Bishop Whitehead. He won, but of course he's not going to get any money because the great Bishop Whitehead is now serving 9 years in prison. But he's knocked heads with him. He's the subject of Vincent Terrell's whistleblower video. He has had issues with Tasha K. He's had issues with, he's had issues with people. But he is the center of this particular small, very small section of the YouTube universe. And speaking of the Archbishop Bernard Jordan, he is Larry Reid's mentor. He often appears on Larry Reid Live. He does prophecy shows or prophetic shows every couple months with Larry Reid. When Larry Reid had that trouble after the Vincent Terrell Hill um, video, he came on and he immediately said we should support Larry, and we can support him best by giving a seed. Let's do a seed. Yeah. So Bernard Jordan does not appear on Larry Reid Live without asking or telling people to give a seed. He just doesn't. That's his thing. He has to have a seed. Not necessarily preach the word, but he has to have a seed. Whether it's in his own church, which I believe is the church that was formerly Reverend Ike's, if I'm not mistaken. He was also mentored, Bernard Jordan was mentored by Reverend Ike. So, seeds are his thing. He's the king of seeds. Um, he was elevated to, or yeah, he was elevated to Archbishop in the summer of 2024. Um, Summer or late spring, actually, of 2024. The ceremony itself was very interesting. I think the one part that everybody remembers is somebody blowing a shofar and did not know how to do it properly, and the person sounded like a fool. The other memorable part of this elevation ceremony, which they basically ripped off the Catholic Church, but I'll get into that in a moment. Um, it was $1,000 just to get a ticket to the celebratory dinner. $1,000 a plate. When they showed the dinner, I didn't see any food on any of the plates. So I don't know whether the food was good or not. I hope it was. Then, as another part of the dinner, he would, of course, he offered to do prophecies for a lovely small donation of $10,000 at his own elevation dinner. So if you gave $10,000, he gave you a prophecy. I said this man don't go nowhere without asking for a seed. I'm not kidding. He also requested seeds at Larry Reid's event in July, the Reformation, which is the annual event that Larry Reid puts on in Atlanta every July. And of course, he was there. And of course, he asked for seeds. And he offered prophecies for a minimum of $10,000. And as I discussed before on my video about SeedCon, as I like to call it, um, the smaller the donation, the quicker the prophecy. Um, and they wanted a minimum. I believe the minimum they were asking people for was, I think it was 2,000 or something they were looking for. But of course, if you came up with less, they took it. Anyhow, Jordan is occasionally referred to as America's Black Prophet. There is a documentary, I believe it's still floating around on YouTube about him. As I mentioned, he was the mentee of the infamous Reverend Ike. That picture at the bottom left is him back in the day when he first got started. I did not know he had dreads. I saw that picture and I said, "Ooh, I must have this picture." Um, Unlike Larry Reid, however, Jordan does have a divinity degree. I don't have the name of the school off the top of my head, but he does actually have a divinity degree. He created, and he and his wife run what's called Zoe Ministries. And if you go and look at their YouTube and you check out one of their online shows, it's always a seed. Always a seed. Yeah. Anyway, let me get off this before I go into another rant. But he, like I said, he is the king of seeds. He is constantly asking for seeds. Anywhere he appears, he says, "We must sow a seed." Um, and his son, Manasseh Jordan, I didn't include him in this video because of constraints, but he has also been in the Larry Reid orbit every now and then. So maybe one of these days we'll talk about him. So this brings us to the infamous William McRae III. I'm going to be saying infamous a lot because they all are. The picture in the upper right hand corner is what William McRae used to look like back in the day. I found this by accident. The picture on the left hand side, which I'm sorry it's not clear, but it's a screenshot from Larry Reid's event, is what William McRae looks like now. He- no, I'm not going to say that. I'm going to try to be nice and balanced. So I'm not going to say what I thought that just came into my head, but he for some reason has gone under a very deep transformation. So he is an occasional ally of Larry Reid. Sometimes they get along, they kiki and hee and hoot and holler together, and sometimes they don't speak for months. He claims to be the first church critic, but his criticism is known as being mostly gossip, particularly in the Church of God in Christ, or Kojic. I don't know anything about that denomination, but apparently that's where he is from, that denomination. And he tends to just talk about people and air scandals, even if he doesn't have all the facts right, which I think has gotten him into trouble. Um, Lots of controversy follows him. He's been accused of, among other things, refusing to apologize for damaging a rental vehicle, which is why he has an issue with King Jives, but I'll get to that in a little bit. Um, his latest controversy is filming a woman who was attending a church service. He filmed her from the back so she didn't know she was being filmed. And you can see him in the video telling the usher that she should be in a modesty, put a modesty sheet on her. Her skirt's too tight. And this guy was jumping up and down in the church in a powder blue suit with a matching hat, and his pants were about 2 sizes too tight. But he was criticizing this young lady that he never knew, never met before. So, yeah, everybody kind of jumped on him for that. And yes, there are other things that he has been known for, but basically, he's sometimes an ally of Larry Reid, sometimes he's not. He has chopped it up with other church bloggers here and there, um, but um, the word on the YouTube street is that people tend to avoid him a little bit because he just doesn't know when to keep his mouth shut. So that brings us to the well, I'm not going to use infamous this time. Vincent Terrell Hill, or V. Terrell Hill. Say how you want to say it. He was Larry Reid's right hand man for almost 15 years. He is known at the moment for posting a whistleblower video. He did it in February of 2024. And it was a very intense, in depth, vivid account of his intimate time with Larry Reid. Um, I suggest, if you are curious, look it up. It's on his YouTube page still. Um, he did it in 2 parts, I believe, maybe 3, and I've watched it twice, and the first time I watched it, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The second time I watched it, to make sure I was hearing what I thought I was hearing, um, it creeped me out a little bit. I will admit, and um, it's intense, y'all. I'm just giving you a heads up. It's intense. But it did shed quite a bit of light on some of the inner workings and questions and problems with Larry Reid because, well, let me go back just a little bit. Larry Reid was accused of um, mistreating three young men, one of whom may or may not have been underage at the time, but they waited until a few years went past before they came forward. Two of them went to Tasha K and she interviewed them. And that's kind of how the whole ball got rolling. People started looking into Larry Reid. Some people didn't believe the accusers, some people didn't believe Larry, and it was back and forth for quite some time. Um, there have been accusations of some of which there is some evidence for of arranged marriages to keep someone in the country, um, it- uh, cheating on spouses, and cult like situation, especially within the inner group of Larry Reid's setup. And Vincent Terrell Hill was part of that inner working. He actually was the one who started the whole um, Larry Reid Live. He claims that it was his idea. He was the one that kind of set up the whole Larry Reid Live system, and Larry just went with it. And when he left, obviously he left, and it's kind of he's the one that sort of got everything started. So, um, he has moved on. Vincent has moved on. He has created what's called safe space, and he calls himself a soul healer. I like to call what he set up as a soul healing consultancy. He has some things that are similar to Larry Reid. The call this number, text this no, text V Terrell Hill to this number, and you'll know when I go live. He has a healing community. It's not Patreon, but it is a private community. You pay a certain amount per month, and they have online chats that are private and things of that nature. The one thing that's different, he Vincent offers tarot card readings. I'm a little when it comes to the tarot cards. I think that you're kind of risking a little bit. You're risking a little bit much when you mess with them tarot cards. Um, but yeah. Other than that, I really think he has an interesting take on topics. He's funny as hell. Every time I watch one of his videos, I laugh. Um, and he covers, the usual celebrity stuff and the church stuff. He's had a couple of people interviewed, and the interviews, actually, he's a good interviewer. I do enjoy his interviews. So, and I've recommended his channel before because it's interesting. Um, and hey, some people do the tarot card thing. That's their thing. Not exactly my thing, but hey, whatever works, whatever seems to work. The one thing I tarot cards only interest the only interest I have in tarot cards are the designs on the back of the card, because I think some of the artwork, tarot cards have some of the most amazing artwork I've seen. But other than that, no, I don't need no reading, babe. But you do you. But yeah, so his February video was the video that kind of just blew things up a little bit because it went into a lot more detail. There were things that people were assuming, were guessing, but he literally had stuff on tape, so to speak. So that's kind of where, once that came out, that's where Larry Reid kind of freaked out. He had Archbishop Jordan on, and he's Archbishop's telling everyone to sow a seed. Let's support Larry. And then Larry dashes off to vacation, and he starts bragging on Instagram. I'm still getting cash apps. I'm still getting Venmos. I ain't worrying about nothing. I ain't worrying about nothing. Y'all ain't talking about nothing. It all started with Vincent's video. That's kind of what kicked it into gear. Um, yeah. So cheers to Vincent for moving on. And again, check out his channel. He has some interesting guests, and he's funny. I'm telling you, if you're feeling like, if you're having a bad day, and there have been days where it's been rough for me, and I watch one of his episodes, and I get a laugh out of it, and it's worth it. So I do want to touch on these two folks. Like I said, there's some other people that would probably fall into the flow chart, but we can discuss that when I do the reaction. King Jives and Conscious TV. Now, King Jives had an issue with Larry back. Well, he's had issues, I think, with Larry Reid for a while. I've only seen like two or three of his shows when he was cussing out William McRae. So I haven't really delved into King Jives before that. But I do know that he had an issue with Larry Reid concerning the three young men that came forward. I believe King Jive sided with the young men, um, and Larry Reid did not appreciate that. Um, and King Jives and William McRae definitely are not getting along because he was upset at what he did to the young lady in the church. And then one of his friends had loaned one of King Jive's, I don't know if it's a friend of his or what, but one of the people came on his show to talk about how they helped William McRae get the rental van, but then William didn't tell them about the rental van, like what he was actually using it for, and then the rental van ended up getting damaged, and the person wanted their money back that they lent William to rent the van, and William said no. So he's been tearing William McRae up every chance he gets. Um, there were at least two episodes, probably three, where he just went in on William McRae for like an hour. um, so I know there's an issue there. I think he still has some issue with Larry Reid because he calls him Lucretia, and he has an issue with somebody else. I'm not going to say the name of the name of the blogger, because I really don't know that person. I haven't watched anything on that person's channel. So, but King Jives is he crazy. And then there's Conscious TV. Um, I know very little about him as well. I've watched maybe two or three episodes of his when he's supporting Larry Reid, um against, yeah, he was supporting Larry Reid when Larry was in another lawsuit with someone by the name of Daryl. which in itself is a video. Apparently, still waters are running real deep over there, and there's lawsuits involved with this gentleman, Conscious, and Daryl, as well as Larry. And I think Larry and Daryl, I think that lawsuit was settled. I'm not sure. I'm still trying to figure out the timeline on that. But there's apparently a lawsuit between Conscious and Daryl, and that's supposedly coming to an end. I don't know if it's settlement or what. I have to delve into that a little bit more. But yeah, these two are definitely worth keeping an eye on. Um, the one episode I did watch of Conscious, he it was disturbing to me because he was basically trying to put a curse on, was it Daryl? I think it was Daryl, and the language he was using, it was very um I don't want to say demonic, but he was calling on some spirits in that episode, and I kind of, after that, I've been avoiding that channel, because some it just didn't sit right with me. So I've been avoiding him, but he is one to kind of watch out for. Um, if anybody has any background on this guy and they want to talk about it when I do the replay, you're more than welcome to, because education is the key. And the more you know, the better it is to avoid. So fill me in if you want. Um, I am going to do a financial update. Um, I am no longer a part of Larry Reid's Patreon. So whatever information I present next, it's only going to be through September, through this month. As of October 1st, I'm not a member anymore. I got tired of giving him my $12 a month. Got tired of contributing to the hypocrisy, even though it was for research. But I'd rather become a member on someone else's channel than be in his Patreon. So, I appreciate you all for watching. I know most of you are going to be watching um on the replay, and well, I'm recording this, so it's going to be a replay no matter what. But I thank you all for watching. I am going to do a a whatchamacallit, a reaction to this video maybe in a couple of days. So I will post it. And in the meantime, questions are always welcome. Respectful comments are always welcome. They're always appreciated. Sharing is caring. If you're looking for me on Instagram, that's my Instagram right there. I do have a Patreon. I just started it. There'll be some beating stuff on there. There'll be some commentary like this on there. There'll be some deep dives will be on there as well. Um, Also, if you're interested in more of a theological look at some of these so-called ministers and prophets, there is a channel called All Things Theology. I've not promoted, but I've recommended them before. Please go check them out. Are they're doing what I'm doing, but they're strictly doing it on a theology tip. They're looking at sermons and they're pulling to see if they are theologically sound, like from the Bible itself. So if that's something that you're into, please check out their channel. There are a couple of other channels too that do the same thing, but All Things Theology seems to have it together. So I definitely recommend them. And I think that's it for now. That's my IG. That's my Patreon. Um, like and subscribe. Subscribers are always appreciated. Um, and likes are always free. So, as I always say, go outside, put your feet in the grass, go watch a sunset or a sunrise. Don't stay in the house all day. Don't stay on the computer all day. And life is short. Eat dessert first. And I will catch you all on the next one, whether it be one of these or beat in chat. And yeah, have a great weekend, everybody. And I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.